Everyone, welcome to Locked On Lakers for Thursday. Brian Kamenetsky, Andy Kamenetsky. The Lakers get cooked at the Crypt and fall into some bad habits. Which ones, you ask? We'll tell you. That's next.
You are Locked On Lakers, your daily Los Angeles Lakers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks to everybody for making Locked On Lakers your first listen of every day, Monday through Friday, no matter how or where you get your podcasts. Always free, never behind paywall. Locked On Lakers on YouTube is where darn near 22,000 subscribers are hanging out, talking to us, talking to each other, and talking about a really lopsided loss on Wednesday, 125-110, the final score against the Sacramento Kings at the Crypt. But quite frankly, it was not as close as a 15-point score might indicate. Want to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by Jace Medical. Empower yourself when you purchase a Jace case, providing you with a personal supply of 5 antibiotics that treat over 50 infections. Get yours today at jacemedical.com. That's JASE medical.com, Andy. And I don't know if the Jace case has the type of antibiotics that would cure some of these chronic issues that the Lakers seem to have. Bad first quarters, loose turnovers, and rebounding problems. But all of those things, if you could find them in a Jace case, would have come in handy on Wednesday, because bad habits, Andy, the Lakers were back at it on against the Kings.
Well, not to get too far ahead of the eventual read we'll be doing for Jace, but they do allow you to customize your Jace case. So that's something the Lakers could specifically order. They could, skip a few of the antibiotics in there and just go straight to the, cutting down on the turnovers medicine.
No amoxicillin, but please, something that helps us make a layup in the first quarter.
Yeah, AD, it was interesting, and we'll get into AD because this was a very bad showing for AD. There could be a few different reasons for it. Ultimately, it didn't matter because they needed him out there. They needed a better effort from him, among other people. But talk about this all the time.
He was in a game where a lot of guys weren't sharp. AD wasn't not just not sharp. He was, by his own admission, really bad. And
he was sharply unsharp is the way I would
He just
put
wasn't there. He was a non-presence. Lebron had some bad turnovers, but also was there. Reaves had some bad turnovers, but also, near a triple-double. Imperfect performances, but they showed up. And
I'm going to be honest.
Anthony Davis didn't show up.
He didn't show up. I think it took a while for some of these other guys to show up. But the point there was a lot of not showing up going on across the board. This is not a game where you should be looking at the final box. I don't mean you in particular. I just mean those listening using us to recap what happened, and maybe you have a box score next to you. This is not a game to use the box score to give an indication of what happened. But in originally bringing up AD, I was going to say, after the Memphis win, he said that was the first game the Lakers really played a complete game for 48 minutes. Mm-hmm. This was not that by any stretch of the imagination. You mentioned the turnovers.
They never led.
They had 23 turnovers in this game, which in and of itself is shockingly bad. But 20 steals for Sacramento, which lets you know, this wasn't just, you throw the ball out of bounds, offensive foul, some over the back foul, things like that. Sacramento stole the ball from them 20 times. You have to be shaving points often to pull off something like that.
My only
led to 21 fast break points for Sacramento. At one point, early in the second quarter, the Lakers had turned the ball over 7 times, giving up 16 points in the process. that is more than a 2-point basket on average for each turnover, meaning you couldn't do much worse either taking care of the ball, given how early it was in the game, or reacting to your mistakes in not taking care of the ball. The tone was set from literally the opening tip. 3 seconds into the game, De'Aaron Fox stole the opening tip, went straight to the cup, and got an and one.
My only quibble with your characterization of the steals is that, they stole the ball from the Lakers 20 times. Is that sometimes they didn't steal the ball.
Yes, true.
The Lakers gave it to them. And this has happened.
Possession is 9/10 of the law.
Right. And if you just give the ball to the other team, yes, technically that's a steal, but really it's more of a gift.
How much can you complain if your car gets broken into in a bad neighborhood, but you didn't lock it?
Right. And you left the doors open and like
the windows down
and like a trail of things to the front of the car indicating all the valuables that might be inside. Like you left a trail of 50s to the front. Like there should be a different. The Lakers, I think, at their
license
worst
plate
this year,
reads "Steal Me."
Basically, the Lakers at their worst this year have put. I think have really raised awareness of perhaps needing a different statistic in the box score for steals, gifts. Like you're just giving the ball to the other team and saying, "Here, God be with you. Do with it what you will." Because there are, and I'm joking, obviously, but there are different levels of turnovers and different levels of steals. And sometimes people make great defensive plays. You're like, damn, that's just a good defensive play, led to a steal and a bucket the other way or whatever. And then there are times when you don't do anything. They just give you the ball. And the Lakers were careless.
There was at least twice the Lakers
careless
turned
with
the ball. There was at least twice the Lakers turned, I almost call them the Lakeovers, which makes sense. The Lakers turned the ball over because they botched the execution of a dribble handoff.
Yeah, they were like too close to each other. It was like the butt fumble in football, like over and over and over again. Just unforced. Coaches will talk about this, but like unforced errors. And so, like you talk about not focusing on the box score because you look at the box and LeBron was 9 of 15, 7 of 8, 9 of 15 from the floor, 7 of 8 from the line, 28 points, 11 assists, had 4 steals himself, 10 rebounds. He had a triple-double. Pretty good. But those, and look, I'm not pinning
LeBron was keeping him in for a lot of the first.
I'm not pinning the loss on LeBron by any stretch. But in the 6 turnovers that he had, like 4 of them were like real bad, like there was really bad and led to points.
Yeah. There was some, what are you doing, man?
Right. D'Angelo, less blameworthy, but had a couple, really loose plays himself, even while having 28 points and, hitting 4 of 6 threes, carrying through, by the way, the positive trend in 3-point shooting that he started against Memphis the other night being Tuesday.
That was my hope, though.
Yeah, it was. That's why I mentioned it, because it's probably not going to be a focus for a lot of the show.
We're not going to stick to the positives after this.
I'm not. But for a 28-point game where he's only on the box score for 2 turnovers and had 5 assists and hit 4 of 6 threes, it's like it still wasn't like you watch the tape of this game and like you say, nobody was like, damn, like if they'd all brought it like that guy.
Actually, you know what? I will give Cam Reddish that. I think in his own right, Cam Reddish played a really good game.
He did. He had 5, particularly defensively, the 5 steals. Yeah.
16 points, 2 of 5 from behind the arc. Like
he wasn't. At the very least, he wasn't the problem. And by the way, only one.
You could argue
for Reddish.
You could argue your job as defined. Cam Reddish may have done his job better than anybody tonight.
I'll give you that. I will give it. You know what, Cam Reddish, you are excused. But we'll probably tomorrow, since it's a non-game day, as we get ready. They don't play on Thursday. We can spend a little more time as we get into Friday and the next iteration of the in-season tournament, talking about Cam Reddish. because I think there's been a bit of a divergence between Cam Reddish and Jackson Hayes, which really reinforces how well Reddish has been playing of late. But let's get to AD, because for all the mistakes that players made, whether with a good box score, a mediocre box score, or something in between, the Lakers don't have much of a chance to win when Davis plays like he did on Wednesday. So let's break that down next.
Locked On Lakers is brought to you by FanDuel, and you can enjoy this NFL season with incredible offers from FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets back with any $5 money line bet that wins. That's, again, $150 in bonus bets if your team wins, a measly $5 money line bet. And you can use those bonus bets on spreads, player props, over-unders, futures, all sorts of fun stuff. The app is really easy to use, all these different options right there at your fingertips. LeBron right now, because there are obviously NBA things that you can bet on as well, 75-1 bet to win MVP. Anthony Davis 40-1. He is 7.5-1, Anthony Davis, to win Defensive Player of the Year, on the rise, just behind three-time winner and recently choke-held Rudy Gobert, who is 5-1. And the folks at FanDuel wasted no time putting Austin Reaves among the 6th Man of the Year candidates. He's now at 11-1, up from 20-1 not even a week ago, 4th overall. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. And again, enjoy this NFL season. Enjoy sports with an offer you won't want to miss. FanDuel, an official partner of the NFL.
Technically, it was a back-to-back. The Lakers and AD looked like he was sort of uncomfortable.
He said he was uncomfortable after the game.
He did. And without saying, I was in love, didn't want to use the adductor injury as an excuse, but he looked uncomfortable. Second night of a back-to-back. But the first night of that back-to-back, Andy, was a cakewalk in which LeBron played 23 minutes. AD played 28 or 29. Definitely didn't hit 30.
Nobody hit 30.
And nobody was working. Nobody had to work hard in that game. There are nights where the second night of a back-to-back becomes almost a scheduled loss. This was not one of them. This, you slept in your own bed, and the night before was not overly taxing. I'll give them, a little bit of okay, it's hard to play back to back, but this was not that. I'm not chalking this up to the second night of a back to back.
Yeah, I mean, I know it was the second night of a back to back, and on top of it, 3 games in 4 nights. But as you mentioned, nobody played 30 minutes the night before against Memphis. Only 4 guys on the team went over 25 minutes, and this was game 12. So it's if this is a factor, fatigue, this early in the season, given those parameters we just mentioned, it's I recognize 3 games in 4 nights, but at the same time, this is the NBA. I mean it's a big boy league. I mean, literally, this is the way the schedule.
You're not the only team that has to do this sort of thing.
Right.
And I mean, on the Lakers postgame show, both James Worthy and Robert Ory were about as critical as you will see anybody be of a star player on the home network, of the team. And they both said, Worthy especially, it's you suited up, you are out there. If you're going to be there, you need to play, and you need to play better. And this sort of thing can't happen. And it was shades of, what happened opening night. We have these conversations, it seems every 11th game, every 10th game about AD. Not that, tonight wasn't his night, but really the problem is all players, even stars, have off nights where they're just not as good as they usually are, but their floor is higher than what AD tends to have when he has these clunker games. LeBron's floor for a bad LeBron game is higher than what AD produces when he's not there. That needs to change. his bad games need to be better. He's allowed to have them, but the bad games from Anthony Davis can't be this bad.
Yeah. First of all, Anthony Davis, 9 points, 9 rebounds, 4 blocks, but 5 turnovers in 35 minutes, 3 and 9 from the floor. To me, it's not the offense that shows just how bad a game it was, even though, make no mistake, 7 points for Anthony Davis in 35 minutes is
scored the first bucket of the game, Andy, and I think was scoreless until the second half.
Yeah, I mean, it's flat out unacceptable. And he seemed to aggravate that abductor. There was a sequence I believe in the first quarter where if I'm remembering correctly, I think he bothered one of Sabonis' shots, but then he might have landed awkwardly or stepped awkwardly, something like that. But it seemed to irritate him. And he actually blocked Sabonis at the rim. I'm looking at my notes right now, but it looked like he aggravated it. And AD was asked about this. He didn't bring it up. He said they're treating this every day. And because it was a back-to-back, he didn't get as much treatment as normal. But he also said, quote, "It is what it is. I'll suit up and play. I got to be more effective." Obviously, it was still bothering me a little bit, but still got to go out there and do my job. And, before even the subject of the abductor came up and he was asked like what was going on out there, AD said, quote, "I just played bad. I'm not going to put it on anything. I missed shots. I just played like bleep, to be honest. It's that simple." He did clarify he's going to play in Portland. Like he presented that as a 100% thing. I know he had said that before the game that he missed in Houston, but I do not expect he's going to miss this game in Portland, particularly considering how badly he played in this game.
And he does usually bounce back pretty well from games like this one.
But to me, the thing that, and I recognize I'm saying this about a guy that had 4 blocks, Anthony Davis, you really didn't make his impact defensively because usually
Sabonis ate him up.
Right. Usually, even in the games where Anthony Davis is struggling to score or is off, you just the jumper's not like whatever, he still wrecks shop defensively. And those are usually the game, by the way, that you and I are like, guys, everything with Anthony Davis is not about scoring. Like, look at more than just the scoring column. This was one of those nights where you didn't even feel him defensively.
No. And, to some degree, this is where it becomes even more problematic when his floor is that low, because the entire Lakers defense is built around Anthony Davis and his activity. And when it's not there, other guys don't know how to do stuff. and so, again, I go back to what I was saying before. His floor for bad games needs to be higher. And like you say, sometimes that part of the reason the floor is often as high as it is when he's a little off is because there are 2 halves of the court. And on one half, he's almost always reliably good. And so, what you end up talking about is offense. They do need the offense, though. And this, I know this is something you want to talk about with Reaves. There's Worthy. I think it was either Worthy or Ori. We're talking about the Davis and the pick and roll. And like he does too much of that. They have him in too many pick and rolls, and they're not just giving the ball in places where he can go and create himself, or whether that's on the low block or on the wing or whatever it might be. And I think there's something to that. Not that they don't want to put him in pick and rolls, because those can be remarkably effective, both for Davis and for setting up other shots for other guys, because he is so good as a pick and roll player. But it is easy to get out of balance. And I felt like on Wednesday, the balance with a lot of things that the Lakers were trying to do was off. And that might've been one of them.
I mean, the execution,
particularly when he's not kind of cooking aggressively.
Yeah. And look, this was a game where he looked physically uncomfortable with, and we acknowledge, like, to some degree, if you're going to be out there, you have to figure out a way through it. But there's a lot that you just lose in terms of game planning, period.
Yes.
When Anthony Davis isn't himself. The overall execution in this game, I mean, for a game where the Lakers shot almost 51% from the field, almost 38% from behind the arc, those are certainly doable offensive raw numbers. This was a game where their execution was often, I mean, it was really bad defensively, but it was pretty damn bad on both sides of the ball.
Yeah.
Like there were times where they got buckets and you're like, I don't know how the hell that just happened, but that was certainly not what was scripted.
No, and again, they gave away way too many possessions. Sacramento had 13 more field goal attempts in this game, and the Lakers went to the line more. So that's really where a lot of that just comes straight up from easy turnovers and stuff like that. One of the other places that the Lakers were out of balance on Wednesday, and have periodically been out of balance even after Austin Reaves has turned things around from just playing like bleep no matter what they were trying to do. It was off. Reaves' synergy with the rest of the offense was off on Wednesday in a pretty big way. So I want to get your thoughts on what you see and potentially think is going on there. We'll do that next.
Lakers is brought to you by Jace Medical, and we spend a lot of time with you, the Locked On Lakers audience, our viewers, our listeners, celebrating wins, lamenting losses like this one, and talking about the rotations, what combinations on the floor make sense, and we feel like we have a connection with you guys, and it's really awesome, and we hopefully take some of the stress out of your day-to-day lives, but a game like this notwithstanding, but we can also offer advice for that day-to-day stress. And whether you're on extended travel, bracing for a weather event or a natural disaster, or there's another supply shortage, you have to be able to expect the unexpected. And thanks to our partners at Jace Medical, life-saving antibiotics and a long list of daily medications can be ordered in a 1-year supply. Even ED generics for Cialis, Viagra, and Revatio prescriptions, those are available. Jace Medical allows you to customize your Jace case with dozens of add-on medications for your family needs. So go online right now to jacemedical.com. Receive your 12-month supply on your daily medication. Remember to use the promo code LOCKEDON at the checkout for a $20 discount as well. Again, JASE medical.com.
In a vacuum, the box score isn't bad for Reaves. Points are a little lower than you want, only 9 of them, and they were a little backloaded. But 4 of 10 from the floor, 0 of 5 from 3-point range. That's not anywhere near where it needs to be. But 11 rebounds, 8 assists. He had a steal. So again, not a great night, but not a night with like literally no contributions for Austin Reaves. And big picture, Andy, he in a vacuum is certainly playing much better than he did over the first 5 or so games of the season. Like, I don't think there's any real argument about that. But contextually with the rest of the team, there are still a lot of moments, and I thought Wednesday throughout most of the game, where the rhythm between Reaves and the other guys on the floor isn't meshing. It's not in sync. What they're trying to do with Reaves, what Reaves is trying to do, and the other guys on the floor being kind of the outlets for that, it's just not aligning often enough. What are you seeing?
It feels to me like Reaves is, if I had to summarize it broadly, I think he's over dribbling when he's out there. It feels to me like he is often just kind of trying to dribble himself either into a solution or out of trouble when he's not found that solution. But it seems like more often than not to me, he's just trying to work his handle and work the ball out of individual trouble, as opposed to it feeling like he's got more of a full-fledged plan involving the whole team. Like, the difference I would say is, D'Lo is a very big prober when he's out there. Like, D'Angelo Russell is not somebody who's going to, run the break all that often. He's not somebody that looks to blow by. Like, D'Lo will be the first to tell you that's not really what he does. And he will often work himself, dribble into the lane, dribble, a couple more steps where he's surrounded by people, where, he's working that ball. But it always feels more like D'Lo has a plan with what he's doing, whether whether the possession ends up working or not, it feels like D'Angelo Russell has more of an idea of what he wants to be doing in those sequences where he works himself into the lane and he's probing in ways that it feels right now like Reaves is doing the dribbling at like twice the speed, but with half the idea of what he wants to do in that possession. That's what it feels like to me.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely 1,000% agree on the over dribbling. And I think it's a weird thing with Reaves because, first of all, I think the Lakers are intentionally sort of giving him more of that sort of ball handling initiation role. Like they're asking him to do more of that.
One of the reasons they moved in the second unit.
Right. So there is a feeling out process. We were talking before the show that, teams adjust. They're continually adjusting to every player on the floor, but certainly somebody like Reaves, who is not so far, established in the league that he's completely out of that window where teams will make adjustments that he has to then adjust back to. But I think a lot of it really is just that rhythm between him and the rest of the group where they are a moment or two late in, do I move or do I not move? Do I cut here or do I not cut? Do I want to give Austin space to get into the lane where he is effective at either putting up his own shot or, drawing a foul or whatever it is? I don't want to get in the way of that. But I also don't want to stand still to give him nowhere to go with the ball. Because Reaves, you don't want him he's not Damian Lillard. He's not going to just, set you, or De'Aaron Fox set you up and just cook you off the dribble. At least not all the time. So I think that rhythm is off. And then I think Reaves is off in his rhythm of, am I going to attack to set up my own shot here? Am I looking to try to set up a teammate? What am I doing? And it's why I think his best moments have come kind of in the context of natural movement, whether it's a pick and roll that opens up really nicely and he, makes a pocket pass to AD or a lob or whatever, or stuff that's more on the loose break or whatever it could be. When they get into the half court, the parts and the motions just aren't lining up frequently enough. That's what I'm seeing.
Yeah, I mean, I was just thinking about this now. Reaves, particularly with the second unit, but just with this team in general, he's often being asked to orchestrate with players he's not as familiar with, like Christian Wood, Jackson Hayes. I mean, even somebody like Rui, who we played with last year, he played high leverage minutes in the playoffs with last year, compared to, say, LeBron and AD, who he's played 2.5 seasons with. Like sometimes it just feels like there's an overall lack of familiarity, or just like a synergy, like an idea of what they're going to be doing. And maybe at times they don't quite know what he's going to be doing, which would make sense because there are times, like I said, it often feels to me like he's not quite sure. It's like,
I think am I passing? Am I scoring? How am I getting? I definitely think there's a little bit of unsureness.
If you've ever done improv training, obviously by definition, improv is being made up as you go to a certain degree. But if you've ever, done training in it, done workshops with it, which I have, there is a foundation that everybody knows ahead of time. And everybody has a broad idea what you're going to be doing. And then from there, because you know that so well, you can improvise. And, it's the same basic tenets for sets that you're going to be running on the court, but then you have to be able to improvise because the defense doesn't cooperate. And it just feels right now like everybody, when Reaves is running a lot of possessions, is not on the same page, whether that is because of Reaves, whether that's because of the other guys, some combination of both. There are times where I feel like Reaves is just playing too frantic, like where he might be missing stuff because he looks sped up a lot.
Yeah, I think there's a little bit of pressing going on, where he's trying to be perfect. But to use your improv comparison, because I think it's a good one. Even the best improv troops start, when you see him, and the polished product on stage, you go see, Second City, you go see whatever. It's like, and it just, the whole thing looks like it happens easily. It's like, okay, yeah, because that's the finished product.
Yeah.
What you didn't see are was the first month where the jokes didn't land, and actor A thought actor B was going to zig, and they zagged, and they said they did this crazy thing when they thought they were going to do that. Like, and nobody was really talking about anything. Like, you didn't see that first month. And
there's a reason that if dress rehearsals are ever open to the public, they're like half price.
Yes.
Because the show you're going to see likely isn't as good.
Right. And so that's kind of what I think they're at. And I'm not terribly concerned by it, because Reaves isn't the type of player who is like, okay, like, I signed my contract, I got to figure out, where are my 22 points coming from tonight? Like, I don't think that's the issue here. It's like, it's much more a question of, to some degree, I think, actually having to be pushed to be a little bit more selfish as a scorer sometimes. But then just what is the right balance? Where do I fit in? Now I'm a bench guy, which is fine because I'm still playing 35 minutes a night, but the personnel is a little different, and they're just not on the same page right now. And as a group, even when Reaves isn't the guy with the ball, there's still too much standing around. There's just not enough activity, not enough cutting, not enough of that stuff. I think that those things that juice an offense and give guys options, and so they'll get there. But when it isn't working, and also too, it's hard to get your offense into a rhythm when you are constantly throwing the ball to the other team. So there's that. And when you can't clean your own glass.
It was often shocking in this game, just the degree to which there was a sequence in the second quarter where Rui got a quick three that seemed like it would be building momentum off an incredible pass back from LeBron. This kick out was amazing. But then Austin turned the ball over on a terrible pass to nobody. It led to a transition threes. Jackson Hayes then turned the ball running the break. Why? Don't know.
Really bad on Wednesday.
Yeah, but that led to a turnover, another Sacramento bucket. Then Reaves turned the ball over again, which led to another transition bucket for Sacramento. And the Lakers in this game, their defense was often just completely out of sorts and without direction, whether they were, there were times where they looked unset, even though they had just scored. Like, they just were. They
didn't quit on the game in the sense that they continued to play hard. They tried to, as you like to put it, the faux comeback. But they continued pushing, quite frankly, longer than I would have. I would have sat guys down at the beginning of the fourth quarter.
I think it's the opposite. Honestly, I don't think they really started busting their ass till that fourth quarter. I think if they had played with the same intensity and focus for the first three that they did in the fourth, I'm not saying they would have won the game, but I think they would have been a hell of a lot.
No, but they pushed in the second quarter before
but not consistently.
I didn't say they played well. I don't think they quit on the game. I don't think they played well.
I'm not talking about execution. I'm talking about energy and focus.
I think I disagree with you. I think the energy got better, after that, initial. I think that there was enough care there, but if you have the energy and your execution is that bad, it's like we're sort of.
Look, even in the fourth quarter where I thought they were carrying more, they still, in the 9.5 minutes that the four starters and Reaves were on the floor, they still turned the ball over 4 times.
Right, and also too, I'm giving them a little less credit for that, because with a 26-point lead, I don't know if Sacramento was as engaged late as they were at the beginning.
Kevin Huerter was, because he busted their asses.
I don't put a lot of credence in fourth quarter pushes when you're down by 26.
Yeah.
Because I think those tend to have much more to do with the other team than they are with you. But anyway, my point is, I don't think they necessarily quit on the game, but to some degree, I even forgot where I was going with that. But like, they just can't be as careless and as bad and sloppy against good teams. And the Kings, if you haven't noticed, are a good team thing. One thing we can get to for Friday, beyond this question of Jackson Hayes, Christian Wood played 9 minutes in the game on Wednesday and has slowly seen some of his prominence getting chipped away. So I want to talk about Christian Wood on Friday as well. Locked On Lakers on YouTube is where you can go to see the show, hang out with nearly 22,000 subscribers. We will be back tomorrow getting ready for the in-season tournament where the Lakers never lose. We'll see everyone Friday.